Well, Ryan, we've reached that pivotal point of the season, the quarter mark of this season. And that means the Thanksgiving theory needs to be examined.
Yep, absolutely got to look at it again, look at what the rule is, where people stand, and absolutely start to ask the question, does this rule still hold this year?
And just to remind people, what it typically means is that at the Thanksgiving mark, 75% of the teams that are in the playoffs currently typically have made the playoffs at the end of the season, which means only 25%, which is typically 2 teams per side, have not made the playoffs that are currently in it. So where are we now? And where are we from our predictions?
Yes. Well, that's the interesting bit.
That's the interesting bit. So I can go first on my side. On the East, my picks aren't looking so good. Right now, Washington, Boston, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh are all currently sitting in playoff positions. I had none of them making it. Toronto, Ottawa, Detroit, and Florida are all currently sitting on the outside looking in. Not good. You had no changes to last year compared to this year. And of course, Boston, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh are currently sitting in playoff positions, and none of them were there last year. In the West, currently sitting in playoff positions are Anaheim, Seattle, and Chicago. And none of them were in the playoffs last year. I had Vancouver as the only team coming in and St. Louis going out. Vancouver's not sitting in a playoff position. St. Louis is out of a playoff position. You had Utah going in and St. Louis out. You're right on St. Louis, and Utah statistically right now is on the outside looking in.
I'm still confident in Utah. I'm still confident.
They're looking pretty good. And let's just remind everybody, for conference finals, I had Toronto versus Colorado. Not happening.
Well, you're looking good on the Colorado front. Yeah. We'll talk about them a little bit more. You had
Carolina and Dallas. That's looking pretty good. Possibly, although Colorado is looking pretty strong in the West. I had Colorado winning the Stanley Cup. You, my friend, didn't pick one. So you've...
You went back and listened.
I went back and looking at my notes here. And hold on, you didn't pick a Stanley Cup champion.
Okay, so I had Colorado. So I had Dallas and Carolina, right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pick Colorado.
So you're changing your pick, is what you're saying?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go with Dallas. And here's the thing.
Circling Dallas.
You know, we're talking about the Thanksgiving theory.
Yes.
But you can't forget the President's Cup theory, that the team that wins the President's Cup very rarely goes on to win the Stanley Cup. And so, Colorado, although they seem to be not losing any games with very little effort, they're making it look pretty easy.
One game in regulation loss. That's all they've got so far. Pretty impressive.
And by the way, and knockwood, they seem to be one of the only teams that hasn't been like blitzed by injuries so far.
You have just jinxed them.
I don't. I certainly don't have that power, but I would say that, I would, if I could do it all over again, I would probably pick Colorado, but I still don't feel that bad about picking Dallas just because of the President's Cup rule.
Yeah, that's not a bad theory to go with, but Colorado has been pretty dominant so far. Yeah, but you're right.
First in wins, first in goals for, first in goals against, first in. The only thing they're not doing great at is power play time. Percentage.
Third overall. That's Oh wow! Oops.
They are
statistically win a category.
They're amazing.
The bigger problem we've got right now, as Canadian fans, Canadian team fans, is right now your Montreal Canadiens are the only Canadian team sitting in a playoff position. So I guess the question we can ask going through this, and typically we do talk about the Canadians and we talk about the Leafs first off, but I think we talk about it in the sense of what Canadian teams are going to make the playoffs given this theory, and do we believe that it's going to only remain the Montreal Canadiens, or do we believe there'll be other Canadian teams in the playoffs?
Right. By the way, if there is one thing that demonstrates that Phil and I are just going to talk about whatever we want to talk about, no matter what our listening audience thinks. It should be mentioned that the vast majority of our audience is all in the United States, not in Canada. So,
don't forget about two friends
in Germany. Our
listeners
probably could not care less about our examination.
Don't not forget about teams. Our friends in Germany.
Our German friends, exactly.
And we do now have somebody listening in Bangladesh.
Oh, excellent.
Don't know who that person is. Again, shout out to us if you're out there listening. We'd like to know
Podcast
who you
bot.
are.
Um, but I think, look, Montreal's the one team in a playoff spot right now. I think they're going to get better. I do not see them losing that playoff spot. I would guess the big question in my mind is, will it be a top three or a wild card spot? I think they'll probably be a wild card spot again before all is said and done. But if they keep playing like they did in most of their games this week, I mean, they had a tough road trip. They're going to be fine. They're going to be better than fine.
Well, you guys beat Vegas. That was a great win.
Beat Vegas, beat Utah, and then walked into Denver and just got spanked.
Well, playing
That's the second time in 3 weeks they've given up a
going
touchdown.
night
which
game to
makes me a little-
afternoon game. That's pretty tough too.
Well, they were actually both afternoon games.
True.
But,
I'm thinking
but they,
West Coast.
they did go to altitude in Denver, and that, in the third game in 4 nights, they were, I won't say destined to lose, but they were definitely poised to not have the energy to pick up that third win. So I am not troubled by that at all. Giving it, like I said, giving up a touchdown for the second time in 3 weeks makes me a little unhappy, but look, I think they just got outclassed and out energized by far the best team in the league, and so I'm not going to worry about it too much.
When you get plastered by the team like Colorado,
Yep.
after the circumstances of how they played, and like you say, going to altitude back to back. Now Colorado was playing back to back as well, and had to travel back to Colorado to play that game, but still they're used to it. You can't be unhappy with where they're sitting right now.
Yeah.
Conversely, I have not left the couch since the beginning of this season.
You're not on the couch anymore. You got a big mat.
Oh,
Talk about
please. We won one game. We've won one game in regulation in the last 12. Let me just give you...
but it was a big win.
We're going to talk about the Leafs now because I'm actually going to state something that's going to hurt. I'm going to say the Leafs are going to miss the playoffs. I do not believe the Leafs are going to get there.
Wow. So the Thanksgiving rule applies to them.
I think it applies to them, and I think right now the way they're playing is the issue. And again, I don't want to sound like a breaking record, but I want to go through some of the stats that just galvanizes how bad they are right now. Goals, and I can't tell you how many people have texted me since the win on Saturday night going, hopefully they've turned the corner. No, they haven't. Goal scoring has not been the problem. They continue to be third or fourth in the league in goal scoring, fourth when it goes to all situations, third on 5-on-5. Here's now where we get into the problem. Goals against. On all situations, we are 30th in the league in goals against. Terrible. We are 31st in the league in goals against on 5-on-5. Shots against, we're 29th in the league in all situations. Shots against in 5-on-5, 28th.
How many teams are in the league again?
Sorry, yes, 32. Let's just remember goals against. I already went through that one. We're 28 goals against. We are 28th in the league in all situations, and we are 31st in goals against in 5-on-5. Defensive zone giveaways. We are 21st in the league, which means 10th worst in the league in all situations. We are 9th worst in the league on 5-on-5. We are giving away but we had 19 giveaways in that game against Pittsburgh. The last 2 wins we've had, Pittsburgh and Columbus, if it hadn't been for our goaltending standing on their head, we do not win those 2 hockey games. And we also gave up another 2-goal lead on Friday against Washington. Like, this can't happen. This is the issue with the Leafs is not goaltending. I don't believe it's necessarily the defensive core. It's a 5-man unit defensive zone structure issue. We can't get the puck out of the zone. We give up the puck at our own blue line. We give away the puck at the offensive blue line, and it comes back in our own zone, and we have zero structure. The trailing line is scoring way too much. And for that, if they can't get their heads out of their rear ends and start playing properly the way they should be, and the way we know they can, then they are not going to dig themselves out of this ditch. I don't care that the Eastern Conference is so jam-packed that they're only sitting 4 points out of a playoff spot. It's too big of a hill to climb if they can't play better structured hockey.
Okay, so if there's a team in the Atlantic that's gonna break the Thanksgiving rule, it's Ottawa.
I think Sorry, it's
If
who?
there's a Canadian team in the Atlantic that's going to break the Thanksgiving rule, it'll be Ottawa because
Oh,
they're
it's
not
going to be
currently.
Ottawa. No question. It'll be Ottawa. I think Ottawa
Okay.
will get in. I think
Okay.
they'll be a wild card team. There's no question. The big question mark in the East is, do we think Florida's going to recover? Because Florida,
Oh, I thought we were
the
talking about the Canadian
the
teams and
injuries
boring
are
everyone.
no, sorry, yeah. Well, we can talk about it all. We're in the East. Like the Florida Panthers are at the same points as the Leafs are now. Their injuries are bad too. The Leafs are bad, but it's catching up with these teams now. Florida, can they recover in the back half of the seasons once they get some of their players back?
They've been
I don't
just
know.
crushed by injury. I don't
Yeah,
understand how they're fielding an NHL team. They're
yeah.
just
So
limping around, but
barely
they're
are.
getting
That's the
wins.
problem.
They're getting some wins.
Yeah, well, they're only 25 points at the same place as the Leafs are. So, but yeah, I don't think that, look at parity in the league. We've talked about, we've never had the teams bunched up this much the way they are right now. So
Right.
you hear a lot of people talking about, will this theory apply this year because of the parity and how, there's, even Buffalo, who's last in the East, are only 5 points out of a playoff spot. Do I
Well, that's
believe
right.
Buffalo's going to jump over everybody else to make it? No way. But
Well, I would say that before the season started, we talked about how close the East was from top to bottom, or from like the just below the top echelon of the East all the way to the bottom. It was pretty tight. There are no terrible teams.
yep.
And who's in the mushy middle and who's at the top end of the mushy middle and who's coming out of it. Like we said, we talked about Detroit. We talked about potentially Buffalo, even though you never know. We talked about Montreal and Ottawa. And we all said that New Jersey was going to have a bounce back year. But everybody is so close, and you have these stories, these preseason stories that may not be working themselves out right now, but they absolutely could. Like Detroit could take that step. Ottawa very much could take that step.
Mm-hmm.
Montreal could take that step. I suspect that Boston is going to take a step back unless Swayman carries them on his back to the playoffs. I just don't think they're quite good enough, either offensively or defensively, to do that, especially with them. I mean, who knows how long McAvoy will be out, but they're struggling right now.
Yeah.
And they could struggle more. So I think the fact that you've got all of these, like interesting teams that could go on a run, I think the Thanksgiving rule, at least in the East, is in serious jeopardy. Like it could, in other words, you could have a statistically big outlier year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, with anything you've said there. I don't disagree with it. I agree with you. I think Boston could take a step backward. I think the interesting thing is right now Logan Thompson in Washington is carrying the Capitals because I think there's another team that could take a backward step in the back half of the season unless he continues to stand on his head. So you got two pretty good goaltenders there carrying their teams. Philadelphia is another team that I just don't believe that they're going to stay, and I'm not sure Pittsburgh will either. I think they're playing over their heads as well. So there's 3 or 4 teams of which we've all think they could have a bit of a letdown in the back half of the season or the back 3 quarters of this season. So who's going to jump into those positions is the interesting point, and who's going to be healthy enough to make that leap? Because I think that's a big part of this thing. We've talked about injuries this season. Injuries is playing a big part of what's going on.
Right.
And I think Ottawa is now getting healthy. I think that's one of the things that are going to contribute to them jumping forward. Florida's not going to get everybody back anytime soon. So can they recover? Toronto seems to be taking step backward in terms of their health. OEL got injured now. We can, one step forward, one step back type thing. I just, again, the way they're playing, I just don't see them making a charge. I really hope they do, but for what?
Right.
To get knocked out in the first round again and getting blown away. You know what? Tank and get the 5, keep your top 5 pick and maybe get Gavin McKenna. But I don't know what other teams are going to jump in. Maybe Detroit. They're the healthy of that group behind. They just got to start playing better. I don't think it's the Rangers either. I think unless they start playing better, but I don't know. I think you're right. I think that this rule could be real jeopardy when it comes to the East. So let's get out of
Let's
the
talk
East.
about the West then.
Talk about the West. Should we just hand the West to Colorado now?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, we've already talked. We've talked about them last week. We talked about them just now. Enough said on what could be the most dominant regular season team we've seen in quite some time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I guess the question mark is, to go back to earlier question, what of the Canadian teams could get back in there? You look
Well,
at again.
you're looking at Winnipeg and Vancouver as your most likely.
Oh, I think Winnipeg and Edmonton are your most likely. Vancouver's dropped way off.
Yeah, that's yeah. I
They're
forgot
two,
about
five,
Edmonton,
and
but
three in their
yeah,
last 10. But Edmonton statistically or points wise, they're tied with Chicago. It's
yeah.
because they've played an extra game. They're statistically out of it right now, and Winnipeg's only one back. The problem Winnipeg has got is that they're going to be without their star goaltending, and it's starting to show. He's
Yeah.
gone for the last 2 weeks, and they've slid. They've gone 4-6 in their last
Well,
10.
Edmonton's been
That's a
without their
problem.
star goaltender, and they're playing
They
okay.
haven't had a goaltender to start the season. But again, now they're getting healthier. Like Hyman's back. That's helped.
Yeah,
They're
he got his
getting, although
first goal the other night.
they just lost Raslovic for a little bit long, but getting, and they got um what's his face back too, the other Nugent Hopkins back. So
Hmm.
they're getting a little healthier on the offensive side of things. I still believe there's going to be a goaltender move there. Right. I think they're downplaying it as a franchise and saying this. The fans, they're demanding it at this point now. And the
Right.
window on this team is going to close if they can't make a change in net. I believe what you said last week. I think the team's given up on Skinner and
Yeah,
Pickard.
they absolutely
I think
have.
they've definitely given up on him. He needs a change of pace and a change of scenery just to get it. But who are they going to go get? Soros is out there potentially because Nashville's playing so poorly. He could be get Binnington in St. Louis could be possibly a goaltender on the move. If you The
You know, it
problem
could be
Edmonton
really
has is they don't
interesting.
have any assets to give up.
You know, it could be really interesting. Hear me out on this.
Go
It's an
for it.
unbelievable scenario.
I can't wait to hear it.
New York Rangers start to fall off, and they realize they can. You know where I'm going with this.
I,
They
I,
could start selling off some assets
you're not
because they've
su-
given up on the
you're
year.
not suggesting Shesterkin is going to be
No,
traded.
no.
You're
They
thinking
trade
quick.
Jonathan Quick to the Edmonton Oilers, and then the Oilers face the Kings in the playoffs again, and Quick goes up
Oh,
against the
wow.
Kings.
That's a possibility,
What a
you know.
storyline that would
That
be.
would be a great storyline, but are you really going to trade if you're Edmonton? Are you going to trade for a goaltender that's probably in his last year?
You'd have to give up less for him.
Possibly, they don't have much to give up to him, so maybe that's
Exactly.
right. But yeah, maybe that could happen. I still think that a Soros or a Binnington are probably more likely. Although they're also apparently talking to Buffalo about the guy with all K's in his name. Um, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I'm sorry.
No, because if you looked at the way you pronounce it 67 different ways,
Yeah.
if you tried 67
I'm
times.
just going to call him Puka. Um,
But yes, so there are some goaltenders available, and they're going to have to go out and get one. The interesting thing is they came out and said that they weren't going to make a lateral move for a goaltender.
and
What?
I think
Yeah,
the
if they,
goaltender in Buffalo, Puka, would be a lateral move.
yeah, you think he's no better than Skinner?
Probably not.
Certainly not. I mean, it's like you're taking a bet because at least with Skinner, you know what you have, and
Yeah.
you've seen him in the playoffs with anybody else actually, other than Bennington. You're
Huh.
kind of in the dark a little.
Soros is
Yeah,
you're right. Soros hasn't done as much in the playoffs as
playoffs.
well. But Biddington is the sure thing. But Biddington's going to come at a ransom that I'm not sure Edmonton can afford to give up. Or they have the assets to give up, but you might
Right.
have to scrounge and find them to get them, right?
Yeah.
So, but who knows? But
Yeah.
I think Edmonton will get into the playoffs. I still believe Winnipeg will get into the playoffs. So I think there could be four Canadian teams in the playoffs.
Four, huh? All right. Well,
Ottawa, Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. Okay. Well, I'm crossing my fingers. I know Rogers is definitely crossing their fingers.
No question. But let's talk a little bit about Nashville at the moment too. Like how bad are
Bad are
they
they?
playing? Like we've glossed over what a disaster this team has been
Yeah, they're
the
in full
last two
selling mode.
seasons.
They're in full selling mode, Dad. By the way, do you hear like what they have sort of put out into the marketplace is the asking price for Ryan O'Reilly? A
Uh,
first round pick and an A-level prospect.
why? What, he's, yeah, okay, he's got 8 goals on the season, 18 points, but he's Really? He's not
He's a
worth a
20
first.
he's a 25 goal guy who wins faceoffs and can give you some grit defensively. I, you could make the argument, even at his age, that a first round pick is worth it, or maybe a first round pick and a fourth round pick, or a first round pick and a minor prospect that you need to send over in order to make the numbers work.
Well, here's the
But
problem, Ryan. There's a reason why that trade hasn't happened yet. Because Barry Trotz believes something that nobody else believes, that he's worth that much. And let's also now examine what Barry Trotz has done over the last 2 years with this team. He's taken a team in the last 2 years under his predecessor that was contender, maybe not Stanley Cup contender, but top 5, 6 contender, and made them the last place team and in
yeah,
the lead to get Gavin McKenna next year. That's how bad his moves are. Nothing he has done in the last 2 years has worked. He has
nope.
brought in two high priced goal scoring players in Marchand and
Marchessault
Marchand, so sorry. And I know I'm just bad
and
with it. And
Stamkos.
Stamkos, and they have done nothing. Stamkos is -10 with 9 points, and Marchessault is -13 with 7 points. These two guys are not earning anywhere near what they're getting paid.
No. So if the asking price for O'Reilly is a first and an A-level prospect, what do you dare ask for Stamkos?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what is Trotz smoking there in Nashville? Like, is he spending too much time out on the strip and not in the arena watching his players play? Like, seriously, come on. You have to be questioning his ability. Like there's got to be some wholesale changes in Nashville. And I'm not just talking about with the players on the ice.
Yeah.
I don't think Trotz has proven that he has an idea what he's doing. Great coach. I'm not sure he's being a great GM at the moment.
Yeah. Well, and the other question you have to ask yourself is Roman Yossi happy? And what
How
could they
can you
fetch?
be?
And what could they fetch for him? Because defensemen like him don't come around every day.
Well, you got him as a longtime Nashville player. You got Philip Forsberg as well. Like your captain and your two longest tenured players probably on that team
Mm-hmm.
can't be all that happy. Yeah, we brought in Stamkos, we brought in Montreux, so yeah, we're gonna do great.
It didn't work.
Tank didn't work. The
It didn't work.
chemistry on this team is worse than the chemistry on the Leafs, and the Leafs are pretty bad.
Wow. I think that the fact that you can identify a team that is worse than Toronto in your mind, facts notwithstanding, means it's time for you to get off the couch.
I don't. Yeah, I don't
I think
so.
you're emerging.
No. There was way too much expectation in Toronto. I had them going to the Stanley Cup Finals. The stats I just read you are just incredibly.
Oh, it's terrible.
bad.
But like, hey, it's like Bruce Coburn said: you got to kick at the darkness until it bleeds daylight. Man, you're gonna find that. You're gonna find.
I'm
that
gonna
silver
kick
lining.
myself to sleep. And it's just crazy. But no, it's not good what's going on in Nashville, and something's got to change. And we
Yeah.
talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Teams like Nashville, St. Louis, in Calgary are holding all the cards when it comes to potential trade options. And one
Yeah.
of those 3 or 4 teams is going to make the first move and start a rash of trades, I think. And I still believe that there'll be something happening this month before Christmas, before the trade embargo that happens over the Christmas period, a 4-day period over Christmas. I think there's going to be a trade somewhere in the
In those three
in
teams.
these 3 teams.
Okay. We'll see. A couple of odds and ends I want to talk about before we wrap up for the week. The first is, we talk a lot about how tough hockey players are. And, there's a million memes, a million jokes, a million promos on ESPN and TNT sports shows or hockey shows about how tough hockey players are. And I think the proof was definitely in the pudding this week on that theory, because if anybody listening here or any hockey fan generally did not see the Kyle Palmieri play where he went into the boards, you can find this on YouTube. He went into the boards and tore his ACL, which is a debilitating injury. Well, Kyle decided not only was he going to get up and skate to the bench by himself, he wasn't just going to lay in a heap in the corner. He got up and started limping, skating, gliding his way to the bench.
Yeah, I'd call it gliding for sure.
He's
He wasn't really
gliding for
pushing
sure.
off that knee.
Well, the play came back into the offensive zone that he was in. And then he stripped the puck as he was gliding by the defenseman and then quickly passed it to Andersley, who scored. Like, the guy assisted on a goal, got a takeaway and an assistant on a goal with a torn ACL on his way back to the locker room to get treatment.
Has to be the play of the year.
It has to be the play of the year. If that is not the toughest thing you can think of, that was absolutely amazing. The only thing that'd be more impressive is if he was like having a heart attack while that was happening as well.
Well, where's Don Cherry and Rock'em Sock'em Hockey when you need him? Because this would be the number one. This would be the number one play on Rock'em Sock'em Hockey 25-26 for sure.
That was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But while you're on injuries, he's got 6 to 8 months, and that's going to be bad, obviously for New York. But let's talk about the Rangers too. Just lost Adam Fox for a long. They just put him on long-term injury reserve as well. And we've been talking about this all season long. This, whether it's the compressed schedule or whatever it is, there has been a rash of injuries this season, and to high-end talent, not just anybody. There's been a lot of high-end talent injured this year, and it's unfortunate. Like, it's disturbing especially in an Olympic year where some of these guys were potentially on their respective countries' teams and starting and frontline players for those teams. Logan Cooley, even on the weekend, it seems the reports are that he escaped serious injury on Saturday night with that knee on knee.
But it's close.
He didn't have a lot of weight on that knee when he got hit, so it looks like he's escaped. He's day to day, so that's good news for Logan Cooley because he's potentially an option for Team USA. But the injury bug has definitely been a problem this year. Whether it's the compressed schedule or whatever it is this year, or compressed schedule from last year flowing into this year, it's probably just all of it combined, and it's not good for the NHL. And who knows? One of the other things I think you wanted to talk about, who knows whether you're actually going to play the Olympics, because
that was going to be the other thing.
Building in Italy is nowhere close to being finished, and
they don't have an arena yet.
Apparently, all the experts are saying there is no plan B. They have no clue if this building doesn't get ready. There's nowhere else to play.
Well, I mean, Turin isn't that far away. What did they do with the 2 hockey arenas that hosted hockey there?
I don't know. That's an excellent question. But what everybody and even the Olympic Association is saying that there is no plan B.
Yeah.
So
they
have to come up with something.
They got to come up with something. They need to focus their efforts on the right places. Like, as a person who's not going to the Olympics and not attending the games, I don't care if the bathrooms don't work very well, or the turnstiles don't work very well, or the chairs aren't that comfortable or a little loose in their hinges, or the lighting is weird in the concourse. Like, I just don't want a problem with the ice or the benches or the glass or the boards that gets one of the best players in the world injured unnecessarily. So they better have some tests on that ice before, like I said, the best players in the world come and put their bodies on the line.
Right. And let's keep in mind too, is that the time frame for this is earlier than we think, because the women's tournament actually starts the day before the opening ceremonies. The prelim games start the day before the opening ceremony. So this needs to get ready pretty quickly, because they haven't turned the building over to the operations team of the Olympics. So it's nowhere close to being ready for spectators, players, or anybody. Like, forget about the toilets. There's no gates to get into this building at this point. So
well, they got to find a frozen lake in the Alps and do it,
there you go. Maybe
frozen pond hockey for the Olympic medal.
That might actually be fun.
That could be great.
That would be awesome to watch outdoor hockey again. It's just crazy. But
if the NHL can do that in like Florida and Nevada or wherever, or Dodger Stadium, they can certainly find a lake they can figure out how to do that.
Yeah, no question.
Do it outdoors.
There you go. But before we end, because I know we're probably running overtime here, let's end on a high note. What is something you're looking forward to other than in the Olympics in the last second two-thirds of the season? What's your storyline that you're looking forward to?
I want to see Montreal solidify a spot in the top three in the Atlantic. Get a little bit of separation from, you know, the bottom teams. That's what I'd like to see. You know, maybe 3 points. If I could see 3 points clear between, you know, them and their next closest competitor in the Atlantic, you know, sort of taking into account games in hand and stuff like that, because Boston's played like 48 games at this point. They're so far ahead. But yeah, I'd like to see the Canadiens get into a little bit more comfortable spot.
That's great.
How about you?
I think that's going to happen. Well, if the Leafs are actually going to try and do something, I'd like to see them actually. They've got to change the.
That's just another way of saying you want an excuse to throw out your Nick Robertson voodoo doll.
Well, I know it's not even Nick. I'm done talking about that guy. I won't even go on my rant of Nick Robertson, but they definitely need to change the culture in the room. There's just no. I think I've said this to somebody else. I don't know if I said this to you, and a friend of mine and I have this conversation. There's too many players on this team right now that are okay with losing, and that isn't okay. They're more okay with losing than their desire to win, and that's a problem. And they need to change the culture in the room. And there needs to be. It's just not one player thing. There's a 3, 4. There needs to be a bit of a swap. None of the 4 guys they've brought in this year have worked out very well. Michelli's being benched. Waugh hasn't really done much, although he scored this weekend. So did Dakota Joshua. But for the most part, these guys are being in and out of the lineup. They're not. It's not working. It hasn't created the desired effect that the Leafs wanted, and they need to figure out.
Yeah.
So if not,
they need to find the detail in their
top
game.
5.
Keep your top Gavin 5 McKenna.
You can go for Gavin McKenna.
Yeah,
that's it.
Okay. Well, let's hopefully they'll make a move and start getting back into the playoff picture by the end of December. I look, I want to do like a Christmas episode with you where, you know, you're in a good mood.
I'm in a great mood. I
want you to be in a holiday.
Habs. You know, it's my turn to support your Habs in the playoffs instead of you hoping that the Leafs do something in the playoffs. We got to turn the tides here a little bit.
We'll take whatever we can get collectively between two teams. Hopefully we can get some noise.
You know what I'm really looking forward to though next week? Next Saturday, a little revenge against your Habs.
In Toronto. Well, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
There we go. All right. Well, I know we'll chat all week, and I'm looking forward to next Saturday as much as you are. And
absolutely
having our little text exchange as we always do next week on the Aiming 5-Hole podcast. See you later, Ryan.
Ciao, man.
Bye-bye.
This is hockey, the heart of the